And we'll go back to the weekly update my thoughts video. And so let's go ahead and let's go through it here. So it's a shout out to our competitors. First picture is from COD Cape. Dear Stormworkers, this week is the announcement week, while next week will be a minor update. So that's nice to get a minor update next week. Announcement this week, that's good. We want to dedicate this week's announcements to saying a few words about creators. We wake up every day with the need to just make something. We are particularly lucky that this game is aimed at people who share that passion. Playing Stormworks is all about designing, creating, sharing what you've built, and thinking about how to improve it. We know how time-consuming and difficult it is to make many of the Stormworks creations we see in the workshop. We really value our players' passion for design and building. This type of game is not for everyone, and so there's a lot of excitement, joy, and pride. Know these qualities are shared with many. So that's really great. It's as somebody who's always enjoyed building and making things and engineering. It's these types of games I've always gravitated towards. I like to be the hero in my story. Essentially, I much prefer making my own storyline, crafting my own story. I've never really got into games like, say, The Witcher or something where, you go where they tell you to go. And so I really like these games where I can build whatever I feel like, I can make whatever I want, and I can make my own story. And these building games are really a lot of fun for me. And so, it's cool that they're, talking about that. And very few genres of games do you have that same kind of urge that the developers do. It talks about how they share this desire to get up and make something every day, and very rarely do you get that. A lot of those games, the developers make the game and you just experience it. And in this game, we make a lot of the content that makes the game enjoyable, and so I think that's really cool. I'll look up the rest of the pictures here. We have also talked about content creators and YouTubers before. The process may be different, but I am sure that there are many great players who, like us, appreciate and admire determination, energy, creativity, and craft that goes into creating this kind of content. Building things is awesome. But we also want to talk about the many other great building games on Steam. Steam has proven itself as the best platform by far for supporting an ecosystem for specialists and niche games that can only exist on PC. I'd absolutely agree with that. I think a lot of games, Steam. I forget what the percentage is. I think they take like something like 30% of the revenue of the games to be able to put it on their platform. And the positive element of that is by having an infrastructure where the game can be built on, like Steam. You get to use Steam's workshop. Imagine if the developers had to build their own workshop, they had to build their own discussion forums, they had to build all these own things. And you can imagine it takes away from game building by going on Steam. They have a integrated workshop, they have an integrated discussion system. You already have memberships and essentially systems like that. And I don't really want my game developers wasting or spending their time building their financial resources spending their own creating their own forums that are subpar to Steam's, creating their own workshops that are subpar to Steam's. And I think by having it on Steam, it is the best. And a lot of people have been asking for this game to come out on consoles. I really am resistant to that. And part of the resistance is a lot of console developers, they have to approve every update. They have to approve things that are on the workshop. Part of this is for their own monetization desires. And you'll see a lot of games, like, for example, 7 Days to Die, how the console version is way behind the PC version because, let it be Xbox or let it be Sony, they have to approve all the updates. And so, of course, they're gonna, they're probably gonna slow walk that. And so you have these issues where they just can't get that those updates out as quick. And so PC, I definitely think, is the way to go for this. It allows us to have a much more open infrastructure and get these, and it very much caters to these types of games. So let's see. I think around 9 years ago when I started out as an indie game dev, I discovered Space Engineers and Kerbal Space Program. These games are technically creative and innovative, but at the time I was most amazed that they had proven viable. It seems obvious now, but 9 years ago the idea that a highly technical building game for audience who likes to geek out about science and build stuff was crazy. These developers took the leap that has led to a whole generation of new games, and people let us. So I really like that they're shouting out to quote unquote the competition. It's always good to have competition. I pretty much troll Reddit and the various Stormworks discords every day. And one of the reasons why I started creating YouTubes, and one of the reasons why I started, posting a lot of pictures and have my own Discord is I wanted to inspire other people as I'd been inspired, and I wanted to keep the conversation alive. And I love to see, I love to see these pictures. And I go on the Discords all day long, and I go on Steam all day long, and I love to look at other people's pictures because it inspires me. And when I see something that looks better than my creation or functions better than my creation, I want to go in there and I want to make my stuff better. And that desire to continually make your stuff better is the essence of competition. It's why competition is so important. And so, they're pointing out some of my favorite games here. I don't play Space Engineers anymore because I think Stormworks has surpassed it in so many ways that Space Engineers is just too basic for me, and I like the more involved building. And Kerbal, I love Kerbal, and I pretty much stopped playing Kerbal. I haven't played in a while. That's my second most played game currently after Stormworks. And I pretty much don't play Kerbal anymore because I'm waiting for Kerbal Space Program 2. And so these are the types of games that have always gravitated to me, and so I like to give a shout out to these. And the best part about competition is when you see your competitor doing something better or something interesting, it makes you want to, do better for your game. And so I'm glad that they have good competition here to be emulated. Other big games that deserve a lot of recognition is Scrap Mechanic, Astroneer, Satisfactory, and Stationeers. Each have pushed their genre in their own style, and their enthusiasm to believe in their vision, put everything behind it, and continue to love and support their players for years, an inspiration to all the developers. When they were talking up here about how, 9 years ago they thought it was crazy that these games thought they could find an audience, we as, I'm 39 something years old, for all my life, people have been saying, oh, games are for kids. Games, games aren't a thinking person's, form of entertainment. And we've proven them wrong so many times because, this is, my job. I have a little bit of a technical background with my aeronautical science degree, but most of my life I've worked as an operator. I flew aircraft. I drive trucks. It's always been operating machines. That's been my passion. And so, but I've also had an engineering desire. I originally wanted to be an engineer, and so these types of games allow us to go in there and to use that part of our brain and to it's like any sort of muscle. You want to exercise it. And so we were told many times that oh, these types of games will never take off. And again, they don't have an enormous audience. They're not as popular as, say, a casual FPS, but they have their audience. And I think we find out, like, looking at all these different games, you see how big the audience is. And it allows you to not have to compromise too much. Stormworks is, I would say, on the more technical level. You can build something super simple, but you can also build something uber complex. And there are plenty of games out there that are much simpler, that if you want a simpler engineering game, you can go play that. And it allows us to have a game that is more complex because, there are other games out there as well. And it allows, you to kind of find where the community is, and that's great. This post is getting long, so sorry you can't list or give more games. Give all the praise these games deserve. Please do check them out and let us know about other games and why they're important in the comments. Some quick notes. AMD fixed the drivers. If you've been crashing with AMD graphics recently, please update your drivers. So, a lot of people have been talking about crashes. It's been in the Steam forums, it's been on Reddit, and I think some people were trying to blame it on Stormworks. And sometimes you can say, yeah, it's the way it works with the game. But I really don't want the developers spending the entire week trying to fix AMD's problem. You'll often find this, that when you get a new graphics driver, it screws up your games, and you have to go and you have to try to fix it. And it happens with Tarkov. You'll notice you're getting stuttering again where you didn't have stuttering. And lo and behold, a week later, Intel, for me, puts out a driver and it fixes it. And so I don't want the developer spending all this time trying to fix Intel or AMD's problem. And so, a lot of people have been trying to blame the Stormworks developers for their game crashing. Well, and one thing that we were noticing as a trend is everybody would ask, "What's your GPU?" and they'd be, AMD, 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 and so it seems like it definitely was an AMD problem. Again, I don't know much about it, but that seemed like what it was, and so I'm glad those drivers are fixed. A lot of people have been locked out of the game and have been unable to play. I really hope this fixes it for them. I want everybody to be able to enjoy their experience in game, and so that's awesome. That looks like the drivers came out, and it definitely looks like seemed like it was an AMD driver issue. So always check your drivers, make sure those are up to date, and potentially roll back if you need to. Potential new DLC we're considering. A huge update before the end of the year. That's awesome. It'll probably be controversial, and again, I'm gonna stay out of the discussion. The I love DLCs. And again, I understand I come from a privileged position that I have money, I have a good job, I work a lot of hours, and throwing down $10 for a DLC, that's less than 10 minutes of work for me. And I understand a lot of people are not in that same situation, and $10 is a lot of money to them. I get that. But for me, I think of, to go out to dinner, it's going to cost me at least $30 to $50. And you know what? I can't remember. I remember having a good time going out to dinner, but I don't remember what I ate. I have over 3,000 hours in Stormworks. Even if I wasn't going to use the DLC, I don't use weapons DLC very much. I was happy to spend $10 on it because I'm supporting, I'm supporting my number one hobby. I'm supporting my entertainment. It's one of the cheapest forms of entertainment, and I understand if people don't have the money to support it. But DLC is great for me. These are not predatory DLCs. We are getting about one a year. They're $10. They go on sale, and they're down to like $8. Even at $10, I've spent, I don't know, less than $50 on this game. That's, less than an hour of overtime for me. I understand that a lot of people, are not as fortunate to have that, financial resource. But really, it's not that much money compared to other forms of entertainment. You can't go to an amusement park for this little money. You can't go out to eat most of the time for this amount of money. A tank of gasoline, is generally more than this. And so I'm all for more DLC. I think about 1 or 2 a year is probably good. You don't want it to be The Sims where you have 900 DLCs. You don't want to split the community. I think it was a great way they did weapons DLC where everybody has access to the parts, but they're only cosmetic for those who didn't pay for it, and for those who paid for it, they get full access. That makes it so that things in the workshop aren't missing parts. I hope they do that as well. I could also see a potential DLC. Let's say they came up, this is just me theory crafting, I have no information on this. Let's say they came up with a southern island that has an integrated railway system on the island. It has a hotter climate. It has some other interesting things to do with that island. And it was only DLC. You could see, yeah, it's too bad if your map is missing that and you can't play that in multiplayer, but I don't see it as a huge issue. I don't know what the DLC is going to be. Potentially fishing. That's been a name. I have no information on this. These are all just me guessing. But again, I'm all for DLC. DLC helps them keep the lights on. It helps them keep focusing on this game, and we want them to be engaged in our game. And whether, the capitalistic society certainly has a lot of deficits and is not perfect, but the way you keep a company, which is what they are, focused on what you want them to do is you show that you are a consumer who's going to continue to consume. And there's so much wrong with that, but that is the system and the society and the world we live in. And so by demonstrating that, yes, we want this thing, we're going to continue to pay it for it, that keeps them on this game. You look at these annualized garbage games that just come out and they're throwaway games and they have a bunch of microtransactions. This is not one of those. This is not a game that, this was a $30 game with a $10 DLC. I understand it's different prices in different countries, but this is small money compared to those things, and it supports a game where we have weekly updates, we have continual work on the game. It's not perfect, no game is. And part of this is it's for a niche audience. It's for a small audience, so the money's not going to be huge. And so I'm looking very much forward to a new DLC. I want to continue to support this game. I want to continue to tell the developers with my wallet, hey, this is important to me. Keep working on this. And the way that we can do that is by continuing to support them financially. And again, you know, whether capitalism is great or not is besides the point. That's what we have, and so that's how we have to operate. So including loads of new big features that we have been working for over a year again. So that really that makes me think it's something big and something intricate, and that's what a lot of us in the community have been asking for. Some in a more polite manner than others. Some will be part of a free update. Always nice to see a free update so that those who do not have that financial resource can continue to see increased accessibility and use of the game, while some of the optional stuff might be in a DLC. So that's great. I think this is the right way to handle it. Have it so that all of the community can get involved, but those who cannot financially afford it, can still enjoy it, and those of us who can buy out DLC can also get that extra optional stuff. I really like that way of doing it. They did that with Weapons DLC. It was great. I remember back to in the recession when I was playing Battlefield 3 or 4, and I couldn't afford all the DLCs, but I could play on a server that, and let's say I played 3 maps in a row, and I own those maps, and then the next map came up and I didn't, and it would boot me from the server, and I go play on another server. And it wasn't the end of the world, but it gave me access. I could still play the game, even though I couldn't play every part of it until I could afford the DLC. Much love, Stormworks developers. So I'm really looking forward to this new stuff. I'm looking forward to DLC. I want to keep financially supporting the game. They need money to pay their salaries. They need to pay for food. They need to keep the lights on. And you know what? If the funds dry up in Stormworks, as a game development company, they have to go build a different game. And so, could it be Stormworks 2 and could it make a ton of money? Yes. If the funds dry up for Stormworks, that makes the calculus where they say, hey, maybe there's no money to go build Stormworks 2 because people aren't interested in Stormworks 1 still. It's like Kerbal Space Program. People still love Kerbal Space Program. People still build mods and have an active community. And that's how they knew that they could build Kerbal 2, because the community is still active. So by being an active community, by keeping to support the developers, and part of that support is financial, that tells them this is important to us, and there's a resource there, a financial resource, that means that as a company, they can build more product for us. And again, whether that's the perfect system or not, it is not, but that's the system we have. And so I'm really looking forward to that. Let me just go in the discussion really quick and look at Phil here. Cod Cape, Luck, and Benzin. So I've been looking at Benzin's... where are we here? I've been looking at Benzin's locomotive. I'm really liking the way that's looking out. I really like his style. Really gorgeous looking locomotive here. And was it Lucky? Let me just look really quick. Luck. And it looks like Luck's ship. That looks really good as well. So awesome screenshots, awesome creations. Really look forward to looking at them some more. So we'll end this up. It's been a little long, but the update was long, and kind of wanted to go into some of my thoughts on some stuff. So hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, please give it a like. And if you're not subscribed and you enjoy my content, please consider giving me a sub. We'll see you later.